I'm 94 years old, and I found out when I was 88 that my husband had another family for 34 years. I waited a long time to say that out loud. Even now, it doesn't sound real when I hear it in my own voice. At 94, you would think there wouldn't be many surprises left. You would think the worst would already be behind you. I used to believe that too. I'm not telling you this because I want sympathy. Most of the people who would have felt sorry for me are already gone. I'm telling you because when you get to this age, the truth feels heavier if you keep carrying it alone. And I don't have the strength for heavy things anymore. My husband's name was Walter. He died 6 years ago. I was 88 then. We had been married 67 years. That number meant something to me. It felt solid, unshakable. I wore it like armor. 67 years. I met him when I was 19. He had just come back from overseas. He wasn't loud or charming. He was steady. That's what I liked. Steady men felt safe. My father was not steady. He had a temper that could turn a quiet dinner into something you wanted to forget. So when Walter spoke softly and listened more than he talked, I thought I had found something rare. We married in a small church. I remember my mother adjusting my veil. I remember Walter squeezing my hand at the altar like he was afraid I might disappear. For a long time, we were ordinary. And I don't mean that in a sad way. I mean it in the best way. We rented a small house. The floors creaked. The kitchen window stuck in the summer. We had 2 children within 4 years. I stayed home. He worked at the factory. He left every morning at 6:15. Same time, same thermos, same kiss on my cheek. He worked long hours. That was normal back then. Men worked. Women held everything else together. I didn't question it. When he came home late, I assumed there was overtime. When he was tired, I assumed he carried the weight of providing for us. He missed some school plays. A few birthdays he cut short because the supervisor needed him. I remember one Christmas Eve when he stepped outside to check something in the garage and stayed out nearly an hour. I stood at the sink looking out the frosted window, wondering what could possibly take that long. But you see, nothing ever felt dramatic. Nothing exploded. There were no lipstick stains or strange perfume on his shirt. No phone calls in the middle of the night. He was careful. Or maybe I was trusting. Trust can look a lot like blindness, but it doesn't feel that way at the time. Our children grew. They married. We became grandparents. Walter softened with age. He held the babies with such tenderness. He built little wooden toys in the garage. On Sundays, he would sit in his recliner and watch the birds through the front window. If someone had asked me at 70 whether I had been loved, I would have said yes without hesitation. At 82, I still believed that. The first crack came after he died. It wasn't some dramatic confession on his deathbed. He didn't say a word about it. He held my hand in the hospital and told me he was tired. That was all. I kissed his forehead. I told him he could rest. After the funeral, I went through his things slowly. There is something about sorting through a life that makes you careful. I folded his shirts. I opened drawers I hadn't touched in years. In the back of his filing cabinet behind old insurance papers, I found a small envelope. It was addressed to him in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside were photographs, 2 children, a boy and a girl. They weren't babies in the pictures, they looked to be teenagers. The girl had Walter's eyes. I felt that before I understood it, that deep brown with a little gold around the center. There was a woman standing behind them in one of the photographs. She wasn't young, she wasn't glamorous, she looked ordinary, tired even. I sat on the floor with those photographs in my lap for a long time. At first I thought there must be some mistake, maybe distant relatives, maybe something I had forgotten. But in the envelope were birthday cards. Happy 16th, Dad. We love you, Dad. I remember my hands starting to shake. Not violently, just a quiet trembling, like my body understood before my mind caught up. I found bank statements next, a separate account, small amounts transferred regularly for decades, not enough to raise suspicion, just enough to support something steady, 34 years. He had another family for 34 years. I did the math. It started when I was 54. The children in the photographs were born when I was still packing lunches and sewing Halloween costumes for our own. For weeks, I didn't tell anyone. I would sit at the kitchen table in the mornings with my tea and look at the empty chair across from me. I wanted him to walk in and explain it. I wasn't angry the way you see in movies. I wasn't throwing plates or screaming into pillows. I felt hollow, like someone had quietly removed a wall from my house, and I was just now noticing the cold air. I kept thinking about all the ordinary days, the nights he said he was working late, the business trips that only lasted 2 days, the times he seemed distracted at dinner. Were those the hours he was somewhere else, at another table, telling another woman he would be right back? I went back through my memories like you flip through an old album trying to spot what you missed. But the pictures don't change. They still show birthdays and vacations and anniversaries. He had managed 2 lives without letting either collapse. Eventually, I told my daughter. She cried harder than I did. She kept saying, "How could he do this to you?" I didn't have an answer. I met the other woman once, not by accident. I asked for her address from the bank records. I was 89 by then, too old for pride. She opened the door slowly. She looked like someone who had been bracing for that knock for years. We stood there in silence for a moment, two old women connected by one man. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize either. She said, "I loved him." I believed her. She told me he met her through work. She was a widow with 2 small children. He helped her with something simple, a repair, a form. I don't remember the details because they don't matter now. What mattered was that he stayed. He had dinner with them every Thursday. I had always thought Thursdays were overtime nights. He went to their graduations. I thought he was at conferences. He held her hand in hospital waiting rooms. I thought he was on business trips. It wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. It was a parallel life. That's what hurt the most. Not that he stumbled, but that he built something deliberate. I asked her if she knew about me. She nodded. "Did you ever think about telling me?" I asked. She said, "He said it would destroy you." I laughed at that, not loudly, just a soft sound that surprised even me. Destroy me. The truth is, what destroyed me wasn't the affair. It was the realization that the life I thought was whole had been divided for more than half of it. I came home that afternoon and sat in Walter's chair. I ran my hand over the armrest where his fingers had worn the fabric thin. I tried to hate him, I really did. But when you share nearly 7 decades with someone, your anger gets tangled up with everything else. With the nights he stayed up when I had the flu, with the way he cried when our son broke his arm, with the quiet mornings when we drank coffee and said nothing at all. Was that real? I think it was. That's the complicated part. He didn't stop loving me. He just expanded his life without shrinking ours. And yet, something had been taken from me without my knowing. Choice. If I had known at 54, would I have left? I don't know. Divorce wasn't simple then, and I loved him. I truly did. Maybe I would have stayed, but it would have been my decision. Instead, I lived inside a story that wasn't complete. At 94, I don't have the energy to rewrite history. I sit in this small apartment now. Most of my friends are gone. My children visit when they can. The house is quiet. Sometimes I look at those photographs again. The boy and the girl are in their 50s now. They have children of their own. I met them once, briefly. They were kind to me in a careful way. They didn't ask to be born into secrecy. None of us did. What can't be fixed is the time I spent believing I knew everything about the person closest to me. What can't be fixed is the part of my marriage that was never truly shared. There are nights when I lie awake and wonder how he carried it for so long. Did he feel guilt every time he kissed me goodbye, or did he become good at separating rooms in his mind? I'll never know. When you are young, you think betrayal looks loud. You think it announces itself. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it sits quietly beside you at dinner for 34 years. If you're listening to me now, I'm not here to tell you to search through drawers or doubt every late night. Suspicion can poison a good life. I'm only saying this: don't assume you have endless time to ask the hard questions. Don't assume silence equals safety. If something feels distant, speak about it, not with accusations, just with honesty. I wish I'd asked more about his Thursdays, not because I would have uncovered the truth, maybe I wouldn't have, but because I would have known I didn't ignore the quiet spaces. At my age, the biggest regret isn't that he had another family. It's that I never truly knew the full shape of the man I shared my life with. And yet, I still miss him. That's the part people don't understand. I miss the way he cleared his throat before speaking. I miss the weight of his hand on my back when we crossed the street. Love doesn't disappear just because it was imperfect. If this story means something to you, maybe just hold the people in your life a little closer tonight. Not because they're hiding something, but because time moves faster than you think. I'm 94. My days are quieter now. I sit by the window and watch the light change on the buildings across the street. Sometimes I talk to Walter out loud. I tell him I know. I tell him I'm still here. I don't know if forgiveness is the right word. I think it's more like acceptance, the kind that comes when you realize there's no more arguing left to do. The life we had was real. So was the one he kept from me. I carry both now. And when my time comes, I hope the truth feels lighter than it did at 88. That's all I have left to say.